All right, in this podcast, we're talking about the Exodus Vault, a brand new, exciting place to lock in significant savings on the Exodus website, along with some things to keep in mind for this last part of October. I hope you guys enjoy it. Here we go. What's going on?
Not too much, man. Good morning. Good to see that pretty face.
Exodus morning show here, bright and early. That's what I felt like here this morning. Is we just need to be doing this live and have people driving to work right now.
Yeah, we could, man. There's an idea for the next project.
Absolutely. So it's October 24th, and there's a couple things that means. Number one, it's probably, actually, I don't want to say it's probably, based off of my personal experience with trail cameras, this stretch right here will be the most amount of mature bucks you have on camera the entire season. Now, there's a couple reasons for that why I think that. One of them is because they usually die in about a week or two. and so there's a lot less of them. But don't discount this, and it's an exciting time to be a deer hunter. And looking at the extended forecast, I saw an article yesterday. Across the country, it should be one of the coldest Halloweens on record.
Yep.
Deer hunter's dream right there. Oh my gosh, because everyone loves this Halloween time frame, even leading up on the back end or the front end of that. And it's going to be, from a weather standpoint, there's going to be no excuses from the weather because it should be exceptional, minus a little bit of rain. But how excited are you right now?
I'm pretty damn excited, actually. I know, like, you guys all give me crap, like, for the elk stuff. Like, coming back, I'm not super, thrilled to come back and stop hunting elk, come back and hunt whitetails. But I really am. Like, that's just my personality, Yeah, I'm super pumped for this next front to come in. Been just getting out into the timber a little bit, doing some scouting, like an hour before work. Then put some more cameras out. Actually sat Sunday morning and Monday morning. So like, nice. I'm just gearing up for this next front because it's going to be, it should be like what we're waiting for. And like, this is the opportunity that you don't want to miss because you don't know what November is going to bring. Like like last year, those warm temperatures that came the second week, I think it was the first week in November, it was pretty warm last year. Like,
yep.
Don't discount what we have coming in the next week.
Yeah, I think, and none of this information is really brand new. You could listen to the One of Million Hunting podcast and probably get some of the same information. But I'll just say, out of all the cameras that we ran, this is a really exciting time. The big buck that showed up, I don't know, the 17th to the 21st, he's going to daylight more than likely from, let's say the 25th, 26th to the 31st, or even the 3rd. He'll probably be on that first doe. And so this is the window for that one deer that showed up on one random farm. Like, this is it. This is it.
Yep. So what's Iowa looking like for you?
Dude, I'm just really excited to go out there and hunt. So there's some nice deer out there. And actually on the 22nd, ironically, a new buck showed up, and it had a similar frame of an 8-point that we had in Velvet that we talked about here on the podcast. And I was looking, I was like, he's got a G4 on the left side and G4 on the right side. That's not the same deer. And so he's a really good deer. And so I'm actually going to be packing up and headed that direction probably Wednesday or Thursday to hunt this front. And the weather looks really good going into early part of November too. So I'm probably going to camp out there. I'm looking forward to the change of scenery, but I have a couple spots here in Illinois. Like, I know on this front, as soon as the wind shifts from south to northwest, like, I feel really confident I can whack one. So it's a little weird to go from a place that I feel like I have things, like the odds are very much stacked in my favor, to a little bit more of a random location. But I'm also looking forward to that change of scenery because realistically, 5 or 6 years next time I'm gonna be out there to hunt. So I can hunt here in Illinois every year, thankfully. So that's kind of, I'm just looking forward to getting out there. And that first trip, hung some cameras, did a little bit more scouting, and like kind of feel like I have a somewhat beat on the farm. And dude, this is gonna be an absolute blast. Everyone's like, "What's your goals? What's this?" My goal is to go out there and have fun and enjoy it and relish the moment, because how many people wish they had an Iowa tag in their pocket? Anyone that is a breathing whitetail hunter.
Everybody.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it, and the weather looks awesome.
That's cool, man. I know that having that tag, I don't want to say it like causes anxiety or anything like that because it's just deer hunting, but like, what kind of feelings do you have? Is it just like a little bit like nerve-wracking, or is it?
I feel
just excitement.
Excitement. I feel the most mentally sharp this whitetail season compared to the last 4 or 5.
Wow.
I really do. I have a lot of calmness, excitement, and anticipation, but calmness is like, I know, we can go back and listen to this in a couple weeks, and I might sound like a different person. But right now, I feel very calm, and I feel that I can execute my plan. And I feel like just as here's the thing: I've talked to a lot of people like through this podcast, and I've been able to spend time with a lot of really sharp deer hunters. They don't get worked up. They don't get. Yeah. I'm not talking like in the moment, but it's just like, oh, that happened. That's okay. There's something else. Like even think of the whitetail adrenaline guys. Like when they mess up on a deer, it's not like a meltdown. Oh my gosh, I just ruined my season. And I think every hunter at some point feels like every single thing is make or break. You get busted by a deer, it's make or break. And I just completely lost that. And it's just whatever. Like there's more opportunities. There's a lot of deer out there. There's a lot of opportunity out there. It's not a big deal. You'll find something else. So that's where I'm at mentally, and I feel really positive about this year, no matter what happens, because it's fun. It goes by too fast. I've been saying this on this podcast. It goes by too fast. So I'm just gonna enjoy every second out there, whether it's deader than a doornail or it's on fire. I'm just gonna enjoy it.
I love it, man. I love it, dude. As you and I'm sure there's probably some listeners that can relate to this a little bit, but as you creep up in age, I know that like all you young bucks in the office got lots of life left in you. But dude, when you hit, I don't know, in your late 30s, early 40s, it's like you don't have that many bow seasons left in you. Yeah. Like just relish the moment, like you said. That's cool. I'm glad you have that attitude, man.
Yeah, so I'm really excited, and we'll see. We'll see. I know my true goal is to shoot a mature deer, so that's really what it comes down to, and then just go out there and have a lot of fun. So that's the plan. And then even here in Illinois, it's kind of the same idea. Like there's some farms where there's not a deer that I'd want to shoot, and that's fine. Go to a different place and find something that you do want to hunt. So that's just that's something that I picked up. Like sometimes you don't get the lucky bounce, and sometimes you do. It's the way it goes.
Yep.
So this is something that we haven't talked about here. We just launched something very exciting on the website called the Vault, the Exodus Vault. What the heck is that for someone that doesn't know what it is yet?
The Vault. Well, it's a place where all of our customers, consumers can basically lock in savings on first quality, discontinued, or like overstock items. And it's something we've never, ever, ever done. And coming into the last couple months, I guess going back 2 years ago, I guess it was 2 years ago. Has it been 2 years since we've done the arrows? Maybe 18 months?
Yeah.
Second season?
Yeah.
Anyways, we go through these arrow builds, and there's times where whoever's building them makes a mistake. They cut them a half inch long, they fletch them wrong, whatever the case is. And we've always just set those off to the side because we don't ship them to customers if there's a mistake. And my thought on that, on the operations side, is, well, we'll just hang on to these until we get another order that matches those specifications. And then all of a sudden, 18 months later, we have a stack of these builds back there. And we're like, what do we do with them? So it's a place where the overstock stuff gets basically discounted for us to basically clear inventory and free up some square footage in the shop, man. This place is starting to get kind of piled up. So obviously with the new cameras we have coming in 2024, we have some overstocked renders. So the renders are included in that. There's, I don't know, just odds and ends that we are basically clearing or updating different SKUs. So, it's a place for people to, lock in some giant savings.
Yeah, massive savings and a great opportunity. And if you're one of the lucky people where those arrow builds are already, they match what you need, you can get them really fast, ready to go.
Dude, I know we've only had it up for a handful of days or whatever, but we have already moved some of those overstock arrows. And I looked at the price and I'm like, $90? I'm like,
yeah.
Did we do that? Do we do that right? $90?
Yeah.
Like that's a steal, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think it's an excellent opportunity. I get it. People this time of year, money is going out a lot faster than it's coming in. And so anytime you can, a penny saves a penny earned. So look at it that way. So save some money and get some more gear. And I also think too, just inherently everyone in the season, they start thinking, man, it'd be, whether they see some sign or something else, like I really need a camera over here. Great opportunity to get the render. It's backed by the 5-year warranty, like the same render that everyone has become to know and love. for a very affordable cost with all the things that make it great. So a great opportunity to do that.
Dude, it's crazy to go back, a handful of years and see how, I don't want to say forward thinking, but how far advanced that camera was for its time back in the day. Like there's cameras coming out now that don't do what
Yeah.
the render does. So it's very, very proud of that camera. But also know, like, we have new stuff coming and can't keep everything. All good
Yeah.
things must come to an end at some point.
Yes, only constant thing is change. So, and then another thing too is I'm sure some guys have some rivals ordered on the store. What's the skinny on that?
Well, we're hoping that they come in the next 12, 14 days. So we just finally got a confirmed shipping date, I guess. So actually, I was going through and updating some emails this morning on the service side, because there's always, anytime something's back ordered on the website, which when you're buying something, if it is on back order, it will say in red letters on our website, back ordered, expected ship date or whatever. So if you have something that you haven't gotten a fulfillment or shipping notification within 48 hours of your order, check that listing. I know not everybody reads that stuff, but anyways, yeah, 14 days. So probably towards the end of next week, I think that we'll probably go ahead and start printing shipping labels and prepping that stuff, just so we can get them out the door in a quick, timely fashion for folks, because there's a lot of people waiting on those.
Yeah, definitely. And then any other teasers on the product side that you want to share?
The 4K camera is pretty much done. Yeah. Really, really excited about that. So that new image sensor that we worked through in the spring, and a couple firmware updates. There's a couple still very small minor tweaks, but dude, that thing is freaking wicked, man. Like,
Yeah.
wicked. Like the video that's coming out of that thing, the audio, like it's freaking phenomenal, man.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
awesome.
That's the biggest thing I miss, because I'm running a lot more cell cameras, and I still have a lot of Lift 2s out there, but I miss just running a lot of Lift 2s, so like to filter those out and get Lift 4Ks. I mean, the video is this amazing. I love video. I've talked about it a million times, but you just learn so much, and then it fires you up. If a picture's a 3 out of 10 for excitement, like a video of a big buck hitting the scrape, it's like, oh my god, he's there. I'm gonna go kill him, and the picture's like, oh, he's there.
Yeah.
Whether that's a bad thing for me to mentally think, but it's true. Like a video gets me more fired up than a picture.
Oh, absolutely. I'm with you 1,000%. When we're comparing some of the 4K stuff, and maybe we can tease some of those, some of the videos that we have from the test samples, maybe in December or maybe January, I don't know. But like when you start to compare some of the new GoPro footage from like the GoPro, the 9s or the 10s, whatever we have here at the office, and then compare the video coming out of those Lift 4Ks, like they are very, very, very close in quality. Like it's crazy, man. I am so excited about that product.
Yeah. We're going to have some real crispy B-roll on our YouTube videos coming soon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love
Honestly,
it. Well,
like we could probably, I know that we could shoot promotional videos with that camera.
We should. We should do a launch video with that.
Yeah.
Like the old iPhone commercials, and they shoot a killer iPhone commercial, and then it's like all these shots were from the iPhone.
Yeah.
We should do that. Every shot was from the Lift 4K.
We could do it.
I like it. Well, that's exciting. And then anything else that you can think of? I know we have quite a bit coming down in the pipeline for 2024, and we usually get in trouble talking about things too early. So I'm going to let you use your discretion here.
I'm glad that you put that little note in there about getting ourselves in trouble. Yeah, I don't think that we want to tease anything else. Not at this point. I think there's just too many contingencies with talking about things, but I would say some things have been leaked to, whether it's promotional partners or some staff guys, guys in our inner circle, I guess you can say. There are some people that know about what is coming outside of the, cameras. Obviously there's a couple new cameras coming in 2024. But I don't want to get into there. I think that that's probably a multi-episode topic.
Sure.
With everything that we have going on, and it probably doesn't need to be talked about until we get a little bit closer to the release date.
Yeah. Well, something else that I've talked about here, but we haven't talked about on air is the Exodus and Onyx integration, which is pretty darn
Yeah.
cool. So I know I've talked about it here previously, but if you have an Elite membership and you have Onyx and you have Exodus cameras, cell cameras, you can literally just connect all of that, boom, right there in one spot, and check your cameras in Onyx, and then have your waypoint set. And then, to me, just knowing how forward thinking Onyx is on some of this stuff, I think there's going to be some really powerful insights that come down the pipeline. And this is not me putting words in their mouth, but just me objectively speaking, to where all these different things that we've always wondered and probably too lazy to figure out. There's some guys that do it, but man, this farm is really good on a west wind and there's 90% more daylight pictures, or for whatever reason, big deer are on their feet in the full moon on this farm. Like all these different little nuances that is kind of hard to truly show someone or show yourself that is just, I assume it's just going to be integrated. But before all that gets there, I mean, it's just pretty sweet to be able to have that sweet integration. We worked on that for a long time and it finally came to fruition. So hopefully you guys take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's pretty dang cool. We've had, I don't know, I've had quite a few texts over the last 2 weeks with guys, moving that stuff over to Onyx and like just loving it. And
it's seamless setup too.
It is so seamless. That's just the tip of the iceberg, man. Just the tip of the iceberg. So
yep.
Dude, Onyx, I use it a lot, but I'm like one of those creatures of habit sometimes, especially with technology. Like I get into a way I'm using a tool and like that's the way I use it. There have been so many updates and new features added that I'm like, well, wait a minute. When did they do this? When did they do, like, it's mind boggling how far or how much that the app has advanced in the last, I'm going to say 8 months since last season.
Yeah. The recent imagery, dude, that is a creeper's dream. And you can literally see where your neighbors put the food plots and whether they carved something in new this year.
Yep.
And then you can see, did they get that planted in the first week of August, or was it the second week of August, or the third week of August? It's insane.
How about guys that are like, a couple guys here in the office have Kansas tags, and it's like, you can just figure out if there's crops in the field, if they've been harvested, what covers where. Like, wow, is it bananas?
Yeah, and I don't know where that. I mean, it's not super high res, but you can easily tell what's going on, and I don't know where all this technology goes in the world of like mapping and everything else. I joked with Jared. I was like, man, pretty soon you'll be able to tell how many trucks are in a parking lot at a piece of public on a daily basis, almost, like, because you think about all the satellite imagery, it's only going to get better.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's really interesting that there's a lot of really cool tools on there that they are in my mind the leader of technology in space for a hunting app by far.
Oh, 100%.
So we're definitely proud that we were able to get that nailed down. So, I mean, here we are. Like I said, October 24th. What is your personal plan here to execute in the next 6 days, 7 days, 8 days?
Man, I'm in a spot where I don't have like a true deer that I'm really chasing. Like that big deer from over the summer that I've glassed. Like I have not been able to turn him up, and I haven't. Here's the other thing too. Like we're going to talk about this. I'm going to be the first one to say I have not put forth the effort in the whitetails like I have in years past, just because I allotted my time this year, like on that Western trip. So
sure. Yep.
That it is what it is. Like, and I'm okay with that. Right. So knowing that I don't have the work put in and I'm hunting a lot of new areas, like my expectations are not what they have been in last year or even in the recent years. I'll say the last 5 years. So over the next 6 days, 5 days, my plan is basically to scout, hang more cameras, and find bigger sign than what I've found the last 3 days. I've turned up one deer that I'll talk about him because he's probably going to get shot. It's on public. But a 2 or 3 year old clean 6x6.
Ooh,
like,
man. Yeah.
He's, man, I'm not going to say that I'm not going to shoot him. I have him in daylight. I was in there in that bedding area and hunted it yesterday morning.
So you're going to try to kill, you were trying to kill him.
Well,
subconsciously.
I want to see him.
You're right. That's a slippery slope right there.
It is. But we talk about this internally is like you get some photos sometimes, but especially from cell cameras,
Yes.
where the deer looks smaller than what it is on the
100%.
hoof.
Absolutely.
So before I make that call, I want to see him on the hoof. Like
Hmm.
if I see him, maybe I shoot him, maybe I don't. I don't know. But knowing that he's a young deer and like he's a clean 6x6, that deer could be something special if
Hmm.
he were to live.
Hmm.
So, but anyways, my plan over the next 4 or 5 days is basically prep, scout, find some of these other new areas with bigger sign to hunt on this front, and then that first week in November because I haven't quite found what I've been looking for just yet.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's a key thing to do this time of year. If it's, I mean, it's important to have multiple plans too. So I would not be like this Saturday. I went through and just tore through an entire farm to see if there was any good sign, and there wasn't much that got me excited. So it's like, okay, well, I can back off this place and move on to something else, and have more focus somewhere else. So I think that's the process of elimination is just as effective as the the inverse of that, whatever that would be. Like, okay, I can cross this off. I can forget about it for a little bit until something changes. Maybe buzz through there again in 10 days, and it's. I mean, where do you rank the importance of in-season scouting, along with the same thought in the back of your head, like, well, if I go in there and scout it, I'm going to booger it up. What's your opinion on that?
Um, well, for me, not being on private, mostly hunting, and I guess I am hunting some private, but on the public side, like I'm not handcuffed at all. Like whether I walk through it or somebody else walks
Just
through it tomorrow, like I
doesn't
don't know
matter.
what's going to happen. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. So I'm going to walk until, I can find the stuff that I'm looking for. And on the buck sign side, knowing this time of year, even if I don't find big buck sign, whether it's rubs or a track and a scrape or a track on a field edge, a track in a swamp, whatever that is, big track. If I'm finding doe sign, I'm still hanging a camera there because in 10 days from now, who knows what is going to be pulled out of these cornfields. There is so much standing corn around me. I
Really?
know that I'm not oh my gosh, there's still a lot of beans up here.
Hmm.
Um, there's only been outside of the dairy farmers who have chopped corn for silage. I think that there's only one cornfield within a mile of the public that I've been hunting that has been picked. So there's a lot of standing corn, which obviously plays into where those deer are, where they're hanging out.
Hmm.
Um, so, I mean, I'll continue to monitor that as well over the next 4 or 5 days. And in those areas that I've kind of scouted and found some sign, but not quite what I've been looking for. Like if one of those fields get picked, like boom, I'm in there. Like
Yeah.
I'm in there like within 24 hours to see what's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah. Move some cameras around. Check for check for sign. And there's actually a combine rolling right now outside of my front of my house. They're picking beans right now too. And I think I read the state of Illinois as of last week, 50% of all corn was out. But
Whoa.
yeah, so here locally, there's still. I would say that 50% is probably about right, but there's still some farms that one of the farms. So this is a brand new farm this year. Had no clue what to expect. That was the one I tore through on Saturday. And on the map, this place looks awesome. Looks really good. It breaks some of my rules of like being a top tier farm, but I was still hopeful that it would be good. That was the first cornfield that I know that was picked, and they disked it right after. And it's really bad soil. It's like you can play beach volleyball on that thing. And and so I was like, man, I was hopeful that okay, once the crops get out, we're going to get some new deer, everything else. What we had in the summer is what we have there, and there hasn't really been anything new and exciting growing in. So, but sometimes when, let's say, a neighbor, I mean, especially here in the Midwest, those draws will hold deer for sure, like a hedge line. And then as soon as that's gone, that sign, you may go in there right after it's picked and you see that sign really hot and you're like, oh man, this is great. He probably relocated, 9 out of 10 times. He's probably not terribly far from there, but that's something you have to consider for sure for anyone that's, new to that and they're trying to figure this out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's crazy because, you know, for the next couple of weeks, the season changes so fast and like all these little 2 or 3 day windows, like how you hunt, I don't know, the 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th and 31st may be completely different how you hunt November 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. I mean, you don't want to get stuck into a rut or a pattern this time of year because everything is changing so fast.
Yep. I'll just mention this. We did an episode with Andy May a year or two ago, or maybe we talked about this on the episode, or maybe him and I talked about this like during a phone call or something. But one of the things that he does this time of year is like if he has 5 minutes, he's buzzing around a block or he's buzzing around a square mile, the section, just to see in the car. On his way home from work, he's taking the longer way just to go around a certain piece. The same thing in the mornings. Like any 5-10 minute excursion you can extract from your day right now, like
Mhm.
it is absolutely worth doing to capitalize on those 2 or 3 day windows.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Yeah, that's I don't know. It's exciting because it does change so fast, and sometimes it changes for the better, and sometimes it changes for the worse, depending on the farm that you're on or the piece of public that you're hunting. And I don't know. And I think that's something that just comes with experience, where you start learning. Because everyone, we can talk in generality, or we can have guests on here that speak in generality, but your little pocket of the country is going to have its nuances, and so you can't just copy and paste all this information and say this is what they. I mean, it might happen, but you have to learn these little nuances for yourself, and I think it just takes time. And some people have a knack for it better than the other person, but I think that's just really important. And that's the other thing too, is for someone that's newer, or maybe it's someone that's like trying to get to that next level, you have to realize where you're at as a hunter. If you're still pretty new, like, don't try to run the marathon, because you're not there, man. Like, you have to run your race, or like stay in your lane and still challenge yourself. I think that's very, very important, but don't do it to where you're loading up 500 pounds on the bench and you really should only have a plate on each side. You're gonna die.
Oh man, I love that. That's a good meathead comparison for all of us jocks out there. Yeah, I think when you're a new hunter, there's things that can be really intimidating, especially when you get tuned into all of this content. I think, just real briefly, and then we can move on this, but have some self-awareness, like you said, to realize where you are. Don't set your expectations outside of your knowledge or your skill set. Have fun and just have a good attitude, and like start focus on having encounters before you focus on killing. Like
Mm.
for young guys that are out and they want to kill a bigger buck, or want a their first Pope and Young, or their first buck, or their first Boone and Croc, just focus on having encounters. And like if you break it down into steps, focus on your scouting, focus on running cameras, focusing on breaking down the information critically to get yourself to have those encounters. When you get the encounters, then you can figure out like, hey, shit, like when is the best time to draw on this deer in this situation? Like there's all these little steps that you have to nail down before you kill. And like if you go straight to the killing, you're gonna mess all that other stuff up.
Absolutely. This is something I'm doing every single deer I see this year. I'm mentally going through the process of, if let's say it's a doe or a little buck, right now is when I would grab my bow. Right now is when I would stop him. And I'm just putting a laser beam eyeballs, like that's exactly where I would aim. Like, oh, he moved his front shoulder. Okay, now is when I would shoot. And just going through that mental process every opportunity, because eventually it will be the deer that you want to shoot. And if you're just kind of like leaning back in your tree and just deer watching, you're losing those reps and sharpness, because it is a completely different thing when, like, okay, here's he coming. Okay, do I grab my bow now or no? Okay, he's looking the other direction. Grab my bow. Like, a lot of deer end up living in that window of time when there's a lot of movement and a lot of mistakes made. So you have to be mentally going through that checklist every time you can.
That's freaking great advice, man. Outstanding advice.
It's something after last year, man, like, I've always felt very confident with my bow. And last year I struggled with some opportunities, whether like not grabbing your bow at the right time, not drawing at the right time. And it was because I was being lazy in the tree and just watching deer. And so like, that's something I realized I had to make a conscious effort to be better at. And that's, I haven't had an opportunity to draw back on a buck that I want this year, but feel pretty sharp right now. And I think you have to just be very mentally aware and in the moment, like, okay, this is it now, go.
Yep. Love it.
Are you changing anything from last year? I mean, obviously you're hunting a new area. You have different expectations than even a couple of years ago. I mean, is it just an assimilation of all the things that you've been doing and just executing?
Yeah, I'm not really changing anything. I haven't changed. I actually have busted out some older stands and some older sticks to basically go in. Like we've always talked about scouting and having an extra camera in your bag.
Mm-hmm.
I've been bringing extra stand and sticks on my back while I've scouted the last handful of days, because if I find a spot that may turn out, like, I know my time's relatively limited, so I've been hanging different sets just to be able to pop in an hour and a half before work or an hour and a half after work.
Yep.
Where I don't have to worry about setting up, tearing down, making extra noise, because a couple of the spots that I have found thus far are really, really, really tight to bedding. And that's just been my approach. But outside of that, no, I'm not changing anything. Everything pretty normal, standard operating procedure for me this year.
Okay. Any other hot tips for, like, let's just say this will go live on Thursday, so that would be October 26th. And so, like, let's say this weather, there's going to be so many big deer that get killed this weekend.
Oh,
it's going to be
1,000%.
a lot of big deer killed.
Here's my tip, and this would be, I have a spider hanging down from the ceiling, about to drop on my MacBook. Here's a tip, and this is something that I did in my late 20s that got me very frustrated. So this tip is more for a new hunter, but whether you're running standard cameras or cell cameras and you're getting picture of a deer that you want to kill, like he's your target buck, right? Or you are getting pictures of a bigger deer, and you think that this cold front is going to make him show up where he was showing up, let's say in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. More than likely, that deer is probably not just going to randomly show up 6 hours in advance based on a cold front. Could it happen? Yes. But more times than not, and I did this for, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years. I would get pictures of a deer and think, and I'm hunting at that time, small private, like 30 acres, 50 acres. I did have a bigger farm I was hunting that time where I killed most of my deer, but the smaller chunks, that deer was not living on the piece. But in my mind, you hear everyone talk about cold fronts. The weather's going to be good. Just get in a tree. Deer are going to show up. You still have to be in the right spot, in the right location for the right reasons. So it's not just because the cold front's coming, I don't want people to get anxious and think it's a magic pill. If you're not on something, you're not on something.
Yeah. And there's for the people, and hopefully this isn't me when you know this is okay. If you rank the top 5 days of the year, this is one of the top 5, and you don't feel like you're in the game. That's where it could be mentally challenging. That's where, to your point, okay, we know he's in the general vicinity, draw the half-mile radius, and you're going out on an evening hunt. Where do I think he's probably going to feed that night? Where do I think he might be bedded? Okay, well, that's where I need to be. Because, dude, I can remember so many hunts I've completely wasted. And this is, let's say, 5 years ago or even when I was younger. I'd be stacked up in the hardwoods on an evening hunt, wasting my time. You see some deer at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and then you don't see anything else the rest of the evening because they're going to food. And so I think for someone that is new in the mornings, and this is such a 101 level stuff, but hopefully it'll click for someone. In the mornings, try to be more in a transition area where they're going back to bed. In the evenings, try to intercept them going to food. If you don't have food on your farm, where's the closest food, and then how close can you get? Those are the basic things, just to be in the game, because there's a high chance that someone would just go. I had a picture of this deer at 5 o'clock this morning, or I remember getting pictures of him in the middle of the night over here. That's where I'm going to go because it's cold front.
Yep. How so obviously big front coming. This ties into scrape week, the tail end of scrape week, I guess. What how are scrapes implemented into your strategies right now? For this front. So this is coming out the 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th through Halloween. How are scrapes tying into what you're doing?
Excellent inventory. That this is paramount for inventory on scrapes right now, for sure. So these new bucks that are showing up, it's so hilarious because just selling ground and then having people on farms for the first time of the year, and we'll put your campers on scrapes, and then October 12th, 13th, there's nothing on this farm. There's nothing on this farm. Be patient, dude. Be patient. And then the 17th or 18th, oh my gosh, see this deer that just showed up. See this deer that showed up. And so it's almost like clockwork. So having those cameras on those scrapes now is number one, inventory. And then number two is okay, it's breaking down where you think he might be bedded, where he might be feeding, and where are those transition areas. So those are some of the biggest things. But I really like scrapes that are backing towards bedding on a morning. And then the evening on the way out of the bedding area or headed to food, or even on a food source if you have a really good food source and you have the scrape on the edge. And I would love to know the actual statistics on, because someone else might put a camera on a scrape and it might not be that great, and they may only get a couple pictures of deer and they think, well, this doesn't work. There are scrapes that are more than likely they're obviously getting hit by more deer. But I've noticed even the density of mature bucks plays a huge role on the activity of these scrapes, in my opinion. So just going back to that farm I walked over the weekend, the oldest deer on there is 4 years old. Feel pretty confident in saying that right now. There's not a lot of hot sign. There's not a lot of scrapes. And there's, if you stacked up on that farm on a scrape, you're probably going to be disappointed. But if you go to a farm where maybe there's 2 or 3, competitive bucks, this is when this week can be really, really exciting because they're competing for that first doe, hypothetically. So that's the long and short of it is make sure you're on the right scrape. More than likely, that's going to be associated with a higher density of bucks that you're willing to shoot. And number 2, a density of does with, that lucky one that's going to go into estrus on the early end of that bell curve is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's where historical data goes is really important too.
Yeah. And I agree with everything you said. I'll add one thing to that. And it contradicts the density thing just a little bit, but not really. And we've seen this on a particular area a handful of years while these 2 individual bucks were living, but low deer density area, but 2 mature bucks where their home ranges slightly overlapped. Sure. And that scrape was basically in that area. And one deer would hit it, the next buck would hit it the next day. It was like, again, they're competing for that first doe. But so I guess that was just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I've seen that.
About competition.
Yeah, I've seen that happen before. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you can almost once you walk enough, you can just kind of get a vibe of, okay, there's something going on here, or, this is just a random scrape. And so they're not all created equal, but gosh dang it, if you find the right one, it's ultra powerful for hunting opportunities and also inventory. So that's what I would say. But dude, even, November 3rd is one of my favorite days to be hunting. And a lot of them are still associated with the scrape as well. And that's kind of where I draw the line in the sand of, okay, this is when the quote unquote scrape week is over and now it's more pure rut. But that November 3rd on a scrape next to bedding can be really, really powerful.
I'm not going to argue that, man. Not going to argue that.
I'm excited. I'm as excited as it gets. So
well, wait a minute. Let me back up. You said November 3rd is your favorite day, but I think in recent years, it's always the 7th, 8th, or 9th somewhere in there that you pick.
I've shot my best deer on the 3rd and the 10th.
Okay.
But some of my most fun hunts are, just seeing big deer on the hoof. It's like the 7th or 8th.
Okay. Yeah. So statistically speaking, with the Boone and Crockett stat.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue the books, man. but my little universe I live in, the 3rd and the 10th, that's where I want to be out there. Which everyone gets these, the November 10th in the morning is by far my favorite day of the entire year. For whatever reason. Usually in a timber setting by a bedding area. Like someone thinking right now, where's the best bedding area that I know where I can have a win advantage on November 10th? Be in there. You're going to see deer.
Yep. 1,000%. I don't know that I have a favorite day. I don't know that I've ever I know we play the theoretical question. Hey, what's your favorite day? Gun held to your head. And I'm sure I pick a day, but sitting here right now, killed bucks on the 11th, the 12th, 17th. I'm not sure if I killed one before the 7th of November ever.
Just a rut hunter, man.
I don't think that I have. I'd really have to sit down and sit down and think about it.
Yeah. Well, I guess the 11th and 12th is your favorite days. Should be, anyways. They should be. And that's where it's going to come and go really fast. So, I know sometimes when you're sitting in the tree, it feels like things are going slow, but, go 30 days from when we're recording this, you're going to wish you could go back and redo it again. So give it everything you have, keep a positive mindset, enjoy it. And, that's really, we were just talking beforehand and we were trying to record some rut episodes. And they're pretty challenging because a lot of these guys that have a lot of experience and have found a lot of success, I think they forget some of these initial core principles and steps that maybe new hunters miss. And we'll have an episode about that. But a lot of it just comes down to being at the right place at the right time and logging a lot of hours, and not having a positive mindset and being ready. This is something that I found pretty fun talking about this time frame, where we as hunters, a lot of hunters, I should say, overanalyze, overthink to the point where they go against their gut instinct. And that's something this year I'm just following my gut. on a lot of different stuff. Like, I don't have a picture of a deer there right now, but he's in the general area. I'm going in on my gut. I'm not waiting for that picture. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really important. I have 2 friends. It's funny because one will just say, like, literally just like throw a dart on Onyx, like, oh, you should go here. And then the other one overthinks everything and like, oh, I got to go here for these reasons. The buddy where he throws the dart for sees more bucks than the one that like, so he's picking the spots for the other person, but there's no emotion in the decision. It's like,
Right.
this looks good based on this wind, and this is based off the information you told me. Go try right there. And then when you're doing it for yourself, you start second guessing yourself, or you're adding all these different caveats that don't matter in reality, but you're just doing these mental gymnastics to probably quantify an area that isn't truly the best spot.
Dude, that's the hardest thing about whitetail hunting is when you get to that point where you're overanalyzing things and second guessing yourself, and you get in that mental, gymnastics game, as you said. Like, once you get to that point, dude, you need a hard reset to figure out what the hell's going on and get back to where you can think clearly. Because once you get in that scenario, it's difficult to pull out of it, man. It is
Because then you go through all this mental checklist that really doesn't matter. You probably only need to do 1 or 2 check. Is the wind right? Do I think he's in the area?
Yeah, and it's like you're playing the FOMO game. What if I was over here? I'm not seeing the buck today, but he's probably over here.
Yeah.
And you start
where I knew
dude,
I should have went.
Yeah, exactly.
So just short circuit your own brain and just go with your first gut instinct. I think is probably. I mean, how many guys have we heard like, oh, I was gonna go here and then I ended up going there, and sure enough, he was there. And it's like, well, you knew you should have been there deep down.
Yeah.
But you talked yourself out of going somewhere else, whether it's you had an easier setup to get to or a more comfy stand or anything else. So I think that's a key takeaway for anyone that's newer, that just follow your gut. And if you're wrong, you're going to learn something, and your gut instinct's only going to get more refined.
That's it, dude. Like, the more you follow it and the more you adjust it, have self-awareness, like the more accurate that AI machine that we have in our brain, that tool, the more refined and accurate it becomes. So use it. The more you use it, the better it gets.
Absolutely. Well, anything else here? Otherwise, we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. Just a couple quick shout outs. Yesterday, we talked to a customer. I can't remember his last name. His first name was Jerome. He shot his very first buck. He's tuned into our content. Talked to him a little bit back and forth. It was a stud. It was like it was a high 130s, low 140s, 8-pointer.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Maybe a touch smaller than that, but like you could see the joy and the expressions on his face when he sent those pictures in. So shout out to Jerome. Thank you for tuning in, supporting the podcast and the other YouTube content. And then also shout out to SEAL Team 10 for diving in and being tied into the brand. We appreciate you guys and everything that you do.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Be sure to check out the Vault. Be sure to check out all the content we have going on. Whitetail Cribs is up and rolling. We've had Roger Sapper on there. We've had Tony Peterson. When this weekend it will be Andy Adam Hayes. There's too many 200 killers. I drew a blank there. So these are exclusive looks into their trophy room. I think everyone is always wondering, like, yeah, it'd be pretty interesting to hear some of their stories and see what kind of deer they've killed over the years. Like, I have an idea of what they shot, but it's really cool. And I'm so thankful to all of the guests of Whitetail Cribs that have welcomed us. And I mean, it's a pretty big ask when you call someone and like, hey, can we do this? Yeah, you can come to my house and film, and I'm going to show you all my deer. And so just really thankful. And I think, this season is fewer episodes, but top caliber guests. So be sure to check that out. And that's it, man. Hopefully everyone enjoys this time of year. Follow your gut, remain positive, adjust, refine, and have the best season you can.